Hi, I'm Vicki-Anne, founder and director at Creative Recruiters. My guest today is Holly Dillon. Holly is the studio manager at Brandworks Australia. Welcome to the Creative Studio Insider podcast, Holly.
Oh, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's start with me asking you to tell us a bit about Brandworks.
So Brandworks is a multidisciplinary design studio. We sort of specialize in branding and interiors, and we sort of have a little bit of a niche for ourselves in hospitality as well. Those are the sort of projects that we work on and what we find, really exciting. But we also work with, whether it's lifestyle or products, we're not sort of limited to hospitality, but that's sort of where we find that's our bread and butter. So, yeah.
And what is the makeup of your team? What type of job titles sit within it?
Yeah, so we have obviously superhero account managers. We've got, sparkling creatives that are across graphic designers and interior designers. We've got, I guess there would be about 13 core staff across our whole team, but then we're supported by a suite of freelancers and contractors depending on the skill sets that we need and the expertise that's required for each project as well. So we are...
Sorry, go.
I was just going to say we're quite an international team as well. So we have our head office in Melbourne with a presence in Sydney that sort of allows us to service Australia-wide, but we've also got an office in Jakarta and China as well. So very international as well.
And your account managers and your designers, etc., are they sitting inside of all those other countries also?
Yeah. So we have there's a Melbourne team. I mean, and a lot of the projects we do cross-pollinate depending on whose skills are going to be most appropriate for a certain project. But a lot of those teams have their own projects in their own countries too. So we have account managers and designers in Melbourne, and the same in Jakarta and China as well.
It sounds like a big job. What's your secret in making this all come together and for the team to work together seamlessly in that remote environment?
Patience, but no, I think there's lots of different things that certainly help keep the wheels turning. So being really clear and concise with your briefs and making sure that people understand what the expectations and deliverables are, that goes a long way. But as well, I think just kindness is really important. You've got to, people have to like you to want to do good work for you, and I think they need to feel safe and supported in order to be creative and sort of get those juices going instead of feeling stressed and concerned all the time. So it's a little bit cheesy, but I think being kind and being empathetic also goes a long way as well.
Is there a particular tech stack that you're using that makes it work?
I think it's actually been really interesting, obviously, with COVID and going from working in the office to remote working. We were actually able to transition to that really easily, which was, really helpful because it was a bit of a chaotic time. Something that is really, I don't know, it took me a little while to get used to, but I don't know how I would live without now, is Slack. We use Slack to, manage a lot of our projects and communicate just really quickly. It also means that your inbox is just for external or client communication, so that's not full of internal messages back and forward as well. And then we use an app called Loom, which is it means it allows you to record your video or your screen, so you can walk through a presentation or show your Illustrator file and talk through feedback and sort of send video links back and forth, so that if you don't have to both be available at the same time, but you can sort of talk through it and send it across, and then they can respond to it in the same way. So that's been really good. And also, to be able to do presentations or share things with clients when you may not be able to get in the same room and do it together. So and Google Slides and Docs, I think for those who aren't Adobe savvy, that's been really helpful.
Yeah. And tell me, earlier you said that hospitality is definitely a niche for Brandworks. Do you at all partner with internal creative studios inside of some of those big corporate companies by any chance?
Yeah, so we work closely with the Accor group, Accor Hotels, as well as some of the companies like Charter Hall or ISPT, and they have their own internal creative teams that, you know, kind of manage their maintenance and brand, I guess, maintaining their brand ongoing, but we get contracted to do more like a big creative piece. So whether there's a brand that they need for a new cafe, or they're doing a corporate end of trip facilities or something like that, and that needs a whole identity and creative strategy, those sorts of things get contracted out to us, and we work with their internal marketing team to sort of get that rolled out and understand what they're trying to communicate. And then once that's finished, we'll provide the brand suite over to their team, and they'll manage that and kind of maintain and roll that out going forward. So we do, for sure.
And I think it's important for us to demonstrate that the role of the internal studio is not to be a competition to those in agency land at all. It's about that collaboration, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. I think we can just provide that support to their team that they may not be able to fully service for those more specific projects and things like that. So we can sort of provide a little bit of extra boost or juice to those projects, and then support them as they continue to manage it and grow it going forward, for sure.
And so, what are some of your favourite projects that you've done where you have collaborated with the internal studio?
Yeah, it's funny you ask that, because actually one of the favorite projects that I've worked on more recently is one that we did for Charter Hall, and working with their hospitality partner, Accor Group, where we were branding their there were sort of two pieces to it, where they had a hospitality offering, which is a cafe in one of their property assets, but also it was the wider business hub and sort of end of trip facilities. There's a lot of communal, whether it's an amphitheatre or offices, there's sort of a whole corporate offering for all of their different tenants that really needed to come under one umbrella. And so I actually worked on the strategy for that one, and sort of I was the account manager and managed quite a bit of the creative direction. So it was quite a joy for me to be able to be the guardian of that project and really see it from beginning to end. So yeah, that was really great, really happy client. And I think we came out with, the studio did a great job of executing the visual. So it all kind of came together really, really seamlessly, which is always a joy as well, in kind of management or studio management land where things seem to run smoothly. Yeah, that was a great project. So yeah.
So how do you keep yourself and your team updated and, creatively relevant with contemporary design trends? How do you keep on top of them?
Yeah, so coming back to good old Slack, we have a Slack channel where everyone can just, if they see something that's really interesting or inspiring, or sometimes there's trend reports that we share in there, and everyone can look at it in their own time and refer back to it. Maybe there's something that you saw, and then when you're working on a project a couple of weeks later, you want to go back to it. So that's always good. We did used to have meetings where, once a week someone would be nominated to share something creative that they had, found, or something inspiring, and share that with the team. But I also think you need to be a little bit not skeptical, but just a little bit cautious of trends, because I think ultimately your execution needs to service the brief, and it needs to be unique and have longevity. And sometimes when you're looking too closely at trends, things can start to all look a bit the same. And I think you need to avoid that, because ultimately you need to be creating a really unique and creative solution based on what the initial concept is, rather than just what's cool and looks funky at the time. So yeah, that's how we manage it anyway.
And where do you guys do your best design thinking, do you think? Is it walking the dog, in the shower, driving to work? Where does it tend to happen?
Yeah, everyone's different, right? I think, God, sometimes it's when I'm trying to get to sleep and I can't turn my mind off, and that's when the ideas sort of spark. But also, I think just being able to turn your notifications off, that's actually something that, in the remote working environment, we've all had to really go, okay, we're going into focus mode. All of our notifications are off. We're just focusing on this one thing. And then you've got the room and the space to really flex those creative muscles and not be constantly distracted by messages or, other projects. So yeah, I think it's probably just about focusing in and allowing yourself the room to get the work done. That's for me anyway.
Yeah, I think the turning off the notifications is so important. I do my best thinking in the shower. It's where I do my to-do list. Siri's my best friend. I'm always yelling out, hey, Siri, remind me to do this. Hey, Siri.
Love a list. Yeah.
I heard this great quote recently. You often understand the power of creativity after you experience it. Don't assume you'll recognize it while you're making it. I thought that was brilliant. What are your thoughts about that sentiment?
I think, I totally agree. I think sometimes when you're in the thick of it and you're in the trenches and you're trying to get, deadlines done and manage different relationships and stuff like that, it's really hard to appreciate the amazing work that you're doing at the time. And so often we look back at projects and go, oh, wow, we really did nail the brief there. Or, oh my God, did I actually write that? Or, things like that, where I think you can appreciate it in reflection, as opposed to sort of at the time when you're just focused on trying to get it done and get it out. And so I think, I totally agree. I think there's a few different things. I mean, we worked on a project recently, actually, that we worked on it a year ago. Then it sort of got paused because of COVID. This was for another client of ours who's trying to create a sort of unified brand for a precinct of 4 buildings in the city. And COVID sort of, obviously put things on hold, and we're just coming back to it and picking it back up and reading back on the strategy we had done before. It's sort of, it all still really rings true. And I think, that's when you look at stuff like that, even though the world has so changed in the last year, it's lots of not just COVID, but social movements and things like that. And I think for it to still stand true and really articulate the vision for that precinct, I think that was sort of, means that, the work that we did then was still we kind of nailed it the first time. Yeah. So that's always nice. It's always a nice feeling. So I definitely agree.
You said earlier that you, it sounds like you wear a lot of hats. One of them being account service. I think at the beginning you even called them superhero account managers. They totally are. I'd like to ask you the question of when you or your superhero account managers, when they take a client brief and yet disagree with the approach, how do you handle that conversation? Is it difficult to find a compromise between what they like and what you think they need?
Yeah, I mean, clients are fun, aren't they? Like, you never, I think they come to you for a reason. So, although you might have different perspectives, I think ultimately, your expertise is in trying to articulate their vision. And I think it's just about building trust and rapport, but also having open and honest conversations. And I think both parties really need to come to that, and be able to listen, because sometimes for us, we may have really strong opinions, but we might not understand something that the client does. And so I think it's important to really, have open dialogue. But, those conversations are never easy. I don't think there's a silver bullet for trying to sort of navigate things in a way that they may not want it to happen. And I think you just have to do your best and try and understand why it is the way that they feel that way. Design's subjective, so personal preferences can sometimes overshadow when there's maybe a bigger picture at stake. And so just trying to communicate that and what your reasons are, and having really strong rationales as well, I think goes a long way. It certainly helps. So yeah.
And back on we were talking earlier about technology. Do you think the use of technology to communicate and collaborate on design has enhanced it or restricted it in the past 12 months?
Yeah, interesting question. I think there's two sides to it. I think for our team, it's actually been really wonderful. And like I said, for us to transition to remote working was really smooth, and we've actually been able to probably find a lot of efficiencies in doing that, as opposed to the way we did it before. But I also think there's nothing like getting people in a room together and collaborating and fleshing things out. And a lot of creative, great ideas come from that collaboration and sparking thought from different perspectives being shared and things like that. So I think there will always be value and certainly a place for working together. I think that would always be preferred, but we've found a lot of value in using the technology in different apps. We use a platform called Miro, which is for mood boarding and collaborating on sort of brainstorms and things like that. And so that's really allowed us to explore a whole lot of ideas from all different angles before we hone into one. And perhaps that's not something that we would have done before. I think there's been it's being remote sort of caused us to explore other options, and actually that's been of benefit as well. So I think a bit of both is the right answer.
Yeah, I hear you. What's the one thing that you wish you'd known at the beginning of your studio manager career that would have made a really big difference?
I think just understanding that this is a role. Like, I think when you start out, like I started as a graphic designer, so that's what I studied at uni. That's how I started my career. And then I think it's hard to see that there are different roles outside of the traditional designer or kind of suit account manager, where at the moment I feel like, I really get to dance the line between all of the creative stuff and all of the kind of project management and relationship side of things. And so for me, that's the perfect balance. But I think you don't really recognize that role until maybe you see it or you're offered it. It's hard to sort of find that, if you're searching for a job, it's either designer or account manager. But I think I've just worked this role out carved it out for myself. But I think it's just actually being aware of the roles that are out there that don't fit those traditional molds necessarily. So.
What was it about the studio manager role that you were attracted to? Because as you said, you started your career in design.
Yeah. My career's sort of been a little bit more of a jungle gym than a ladder. I've gone in a few different directions, starting out as a creative. I've always maintained that real interest and passion for creativity. But, I did a couple of other things, and relationships was certainly something that, I enjoyed. And I don't know if you can say you're good at relationships, but, it's something that I enjoyed. And that made me think about, well, maybe just being a designer is not quite the right fit. Maybe if I can be in a creative environment, but actually, doing more overseeing or project management and working with the clients as well to sort of bring that all together. I think that was really interesting to me. So, I think I'm a bit greedy. I just like to have a finger in all the pies and do it all.
My guess is that you just like to be super organized and have a good system and procedure in place.
Oh, we try.
Holly, it's been lovely spending time with you today. Thank you so much. I Here you're in New Zealand at the moment, so I really appreciate it. Yeah, with the time difference, it's a bit early over there, or is it later? Actually, I think it's a bit later, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're 2 hours ahead, so
right.
You're earlier than me. Yeah.
All right. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you soon.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Keep well.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Bye.